Have you ever found yourself daydreaming about how your passion could be the fuel to your financial freedom? Well, right now, you are exactly where you need to be. Hello again, action takers. I am David B., your teammate and buddy on this thrilling endeavor, and I wish you a warm welcome back to the IDKWTF I Was Doing podcast, your go-to hub for turning your interests into income. Today, we're bringing you the riveting part 2 of our discussion with June Lucarotti, an expert book coach and editor who spent the better part of 2 decades guiding aspiring authors to their literary dreams. As your trusted allies on this journey, my electrifying co-host, Teresa Merrick, and me, David B., have been navigating the thrilling highs and challenging lows of the entrepreneurial waters for years. And now we're here to impart our hands-on knowledge, occasional missteps, and favorite interviews with you, our favorite action taker. We start this episode with June asking me some questions that lead me to revealing my personal journey of my own unfinished book. And that despite working on it for a number of years, it has still never seen the light of day. However, it did still become the cornerstone of my entire business, created me an expansive network, and just really revitalized my life. We're also diving into some gritty business realities with June. And yes, we're talking about the mistakes, the hiccups, and some of the roadblocks that sprouted up while she was writing her book and kickstarting her business. So, if you've ever hit a snag in your entrepreneurial journey, you're not alone. But don't worry, June is here to equip you with some priceless insights so that you can steer clear of some of her pitfalls. Now, don't forget to catch every bit of this episode because you wouldn't want to miss the pearl of wisdom, tip, or strategy that could make the difference for you. So, if this is the kind of thing that serenades your sandwiches, be sure to hit that subscribe button and then sit back, focus up, and action takers, let's go. Have you ever started something new and didn't finish it?
You were excited. You invested time and money.
You got stuck.
I'm Teresa Merrick.
And I'm David B.
And this is the podcast with 2 ADHD entrepreneurs, and we've been there.
And worked with hundreds of people in the exact same place.
The IDKWTF I Was Doing podcast will take you away from feelings of frustration and overwhelm.
And lead you to the clarity you need to take action and get shit done.
Listen today because it's important to admit that no one really knows
what the fuck they're doing.
Welcome back, action takers. This has been a information-packed episode so far. I'm very, very excited about it because I think we do have a lot of people in our community that are either writing books or, courses, which is, I think, very similar to writing a book. So.
Well, and you kind of dangled the carrot, David. You mentioned starting this book that you never finished. And I know June probably is like, tell me about that.
Yeah, David, I was curious. I know you shared a little bit with me about your business. And what is the book about?
So the book started really because I worked in retail for a very long time. And so I just hated that whole industry. And I think most people that work in retail do,
Mm-hmm.
So the book was titled FU Retail, Guide to Freedom for Those Who Accidentally Got Stuck.
My goodness.
Yeah. And so I actually went to a self-publishing workshop.
Uh-huh.
And it just blew me away. I was like, this is the answer to get me into a new life, right?
Yeah.
And I did most of it, but I never really had to publish it, because even going through it, I was interviewing people and I was expanding my network and meeting new people.
Yeah.
And just leveling up all of my skills as well. And so it just I never ended up actually publishing.
What is the content of the book? Like, is it about retail at all? Or is it just about how to move into the next career? Or
basically it was 8 steps from going from being stuck in your retail job to either getting out of it by starting your own business or getting into another industry. Because that was the other big thing that I had was like a lot of retail managers, they don't realize that we probably didn't go to college, or many of them haven't gone to college, and they just kind of got stuck there and don't realize that they have skills that would work in other industries that can pay dramatically more with better hours.
Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is it something that you give your clients or that you use in your business at all, even though you haven't published out in the mainstream?
It was. Yeah. So it was the framework of what I was teaching. Right. And my have shifted from that, from specifically people getting out of retail and starting their business. I've shifted to help just general entrepreneurs really start up faster.
Yeah.
Because in the process of writing the book, I had to learn how to publish a website and how to do Facebook marketing, and do all these tedious technical things, and how to like film videos that someone who's a coach or someone who's passionate, they have like their passion that they want to share. They're not good at the tedious technical stuff, right?
Sure.
And so it's a huge roadblock to help for people like getting their messages out there.
Yeah. Do you want to publish your book?
Man, I've thought about it so many times. Like it's written, it's basically done, like the whole outline's there. I knew everything that was going to be in it. I just never finished writing or publishing it,
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to connect you with someone who can help with the self-publishing piece. And I'm happy to talk more with you about it if it is something that you want to do.
And so for me, I just never sat down to finish it. Right. And that's kind of what I was asking you earlier as well. It's because I had the vision for it, but I would start writing and then I'd do something else,
Yeah. I mean, and I actually have a lot of people who go through the program and that happens because they're going through the revisions of the edits that I've given them after the program. So we have basically, if you've done the program already, you have unlimited access forever to these like virtual writing retreats that we do so that you still have this community of accountability around it. The other thing that I recommend for folks is that you just hire an editor and you say, hey, I'm going to send you this, even if it's like a friend of yours or just, somebody to go through it if you feel like it's fairly polished already. To just say, hey, I'm sending you this on this date. And, I'm finishing this revision. It just kind of has to be like out there in the world if you want to finish it and say, hey, I've got to send this to somebody.
Yeah. No,
So.
I think it'd be good. But I mean, even just the process of writing, I think is so incredibly helpful. Even if it doesn't get done, I think writing a book is something.
Totally. I completely agree. I've had a couple people go through my program who with no intention of publishing. And I said, that's absolutely fine. They just wanted to write a book for their families to share with their loved ones about travels and family history. And yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the process itself, people get really attached to the product just in our culture overall. And especially, it bleeds into writing as well. And I think the process is more important actually.
Yeah.
I mean, product. Yeah.
I love that. I'm like, like to write a book for your family. My grandmother and grandfather, when they were young, had all these letters they wrote like during the war. And they just also weren't in the same states at different, we just have all these letters and we were going through them recently and it's so neat. And there's little things that you learn about people that I never would have these letters were like right when they got together. So they're like super cutesy and like, I love you. And it was like, when I knew my grandparents, they had been married for years and years and years and years. So that new cutesiness, but I'm like, how cool would it be even to just create a book that's just for your family to like know these details, like these funny little stories and things that, we just would never know because, or that my grandmother thought she was having a girl, her first child. She thought she was having she wanted a girl. She didn't want a boy. And she had my aunt, but I never thought to ever ask my grandmother, like, did you ever like guess what did you guess that? I never would have thought to guess the gender of your kids. Like,
right.
And now I can't ask her. But so now I have this letter that says, the girl, and it's really, it's cool. So I love the idea. And I think people don't realize that you could create something that maybe it doesn't have to be for the masses if you don't want it to be, because I love writing. I mean, I like what my daughter Marie is like, I don't like poetry, Mom. And I'm like, I love poetry so much. I'm like, I write poetry. She's like, you do? Like, well, I did. I have. So it's just, it's so beautiful. And you can really create it how you want it and share it with who you want to share it with. So
totally. And I'll say I have someone I worked with, Sophia Stone. Again, I think she'd be happy to be plugged. Her book was about her grandmother and the Holocaust. And, she didn't just keep it within the family, but it was very much a family story. And it was amazing to see her like younger generations, even like 5-year-olds in her book launch who were there just listening and kind of just soaking it in and learning things that they might not have known if she hadn't written this book.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty powerful.
Book launches are a whole nother fun thing, actually. That's probably like the one thing I'm sad I didn't finish my book, so I couldn't have a book launch, because they are fun.
You can still have a book launch even if
Fun
you're not
to
done.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and I mean, in your programs, I've gotten to go to like a virtual event of June's where, these authors that have just written their books are reading parts of their books. And it's so cool to like witness it. And it's a cool experience, even in a virtual space where, it's not like, because physically being with people is wonderful. And we all know the joys of COVID and Zoom and all that, but it's still a really special moment when these people are sharing a little piece of themselves. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You should do a book launch, David. It would be fun.
I got to finish my book, so we'll talk.
Totally.
We got this.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, let's take one more quick break, and then we're going to get to the juicy details, June. All the juicy details.
Sounds good.
Have you ever started something new that you were really excited about and invested time or money into, but after doing it for a while, you reach a point and you just feel like, I have no idea what the F I'm doing?
There's that bubbling up of frustration because you're not quite as good as you thought you'd be, or it's nowhere near as easy as you expected. Then suddenly, a wave of guilt comes at the same time, and you don't really want to or feel like you can express this to anyone.
Having a dream you want to accomplish can be very sad and isolating. It's lonely because visionaries tend to see the world the way that it could be instead of settling for the way the world currently is, like most people do.
We believe this so deeply that we wrote a book with the exact 4 steps to help.
This guide is designed to take you out of that feeling of frustration and overwhelm and lead you into the calmness and clarity that you need to reach the life that you know in your heart you're destined to have.
If you've started a project or a goal but have stopped, gotten stuck, or are starting to feel burned out, this is 100% the book for you.
Go to IDKWTFpodcast.com today and download your digital copy with the coupon code ACTION to get it on us, because we want to join you and be your supportive friends and partners throughout your journey.
It's only free for a limited time if you use the code ACTION by going to our website, IDKWTFpodcast.com.
Check it out today and let's get unstuck together. Welcome back, action takers. So now we're going to get to the part where we ask June about what are your biggest mistakes or failures? Like what's one of those, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, well, I was thinking while we were talking about book launches, I really kind of just hustled through the launching of my book and the marketing portion of my book. And I really wish I had spent more time on it. And I see that now. I'll be writing more books. And I actually have been speaking with various book and marketing coaches who are talking with folks in my program. And I'm kind of picking their brain as well. You can relaunch books. You can, do all kinds of things you can do book tours and readings. So I just wish I had launched it more consciously, more intentionally, and sort of built up more. I had an online launch. I had about 20 or so people there, which was wonderful. And it was during the pandemic, and I was right about to give birth.
Oh.
And I mean, not like right that day, but it was, I was very much like, I just want to get this thing out, kind of like giving birth.
You're birthing a book, but you
I
were
don't
at the
care how
head
it happens, just.
and it was like you threw out the birth plan and you're like, just get this thing going.
Pretty much.
And now you're like, okay, maybe the plan would have been
exactly.
Yeah. So we
Thankfully.
did it virtually. So what would you do different this time? Like what did you miss that you really would have liked to?
I think I would have liked to build more interest in the launch beforehand. I think that's one of the biggest things that folks can do is even just sending an email list pieces of your book before you launch, getting people really interested in it, having more people who didn't know me personally at the launch, just spending more time to invest in that. And I think part of it was, and something I'm excited to do in the future is actually relaunch. And I'd like to do it in person. I'd like to do, book readings, a book tour of some sort. People do these massive book tours, but then you can also kind of just put together your own little book tour. Like, I'm going to do one here. I'm going to do one in San Francisco. I'm going to do one, wherever you want to, and just have fun with it. I think there was, for me, and this is part of why I'm very much on the side of helping people write and edit their books. And I'm not, my specialty is not marketing and publishing, because I myself was nervous. I was nervous to have my own book out there. Even just after writing it, publishing it, I was proud of it. I had it edited twice. And there's always this feeling of like, oh, that, I don't know. And I think now I've moved past that. And it just feels so raw right away when you put it out there. You just don't know how people are going to feel about it. And so I think it's something to think about for writers. There are just so many different stages of how you feel about your book before it's published, after it's published. And I think I would just have more fun with it, more fun with marketing and putting it out there.
Playfulness to it.
Absolutely.
Like what I was thinking about, like it was just missing some play. Well,
Absolutely.
and I think it's perfect. I love that it's your title of birthing your book. Like when you're thinking about it and you're comparing it to like you're giving birth to this book, but it's like sometimes that's like life. I mean, you're about to have your second baby, June, and I've had 3, and sometimes you love them and then you don't love them, and then it is not a linear relationship.
Oh, completely. Completely.
So,
I talk about marrying your book in the course, and that it's, people are like, man, I used to have fun writing and now I'm like stressed about it. People are like in the middle of the program. Yeah, a lot of the time. And I try to remind them that's because you stopped dating your book. Like you stopped having one night stands with your book.
actively choosing your book.
Yeah. But when you have that depth, and there's like a section in the book about this as well, you see all the annoying things about your partner or about your book or what, it's kind of the same, all these little things, or you kind of just get lost in it. And it's absolutely not linear. I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
There's just a depth. The other side of that is that when you're marrying your book, there's a depth of the relationship that's really beautiful. I mean, that was really not there when you were just dating it. It's, again, like really linked to your purpose and who you are. It just becomes who you are.
Well, and it's like the full commitment. It's the full commitment, because a marriage is a lot harder to get out of than a dating situation.
Yeah.
Once you've built it and you've committed.
Yeah.
I mean, people call it the piece of paper, but it's like, it's bigger than that. A real true marriage of something. It's like, it's your level of commitment to it. So
yeah.
The other thing too is that like writing the book is one very specific skill set. You have to be in one very specific frame of mind. But once it's done, now it's a whole nother skill set, like planning a book launch and marketing and advertising. It's so different than the artistic, creative side of the the creation of that book baby. And then you've got to nurture it and grow it, right? And
it can be. And I think that's where that section of play in the course is important, because it's like you have to remember to actually start marketing and start sharing it as soon as you're writing your book.
Mm-hmm.
That that helps the two blend so that it doesn't feel so drastic to just write it and then I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I share this as I go?
Absolutely.
And it speeds up that waiting period too, because it takes some time to build that, to get excitement about it. So if you have a couple of little pieces that you can share and get people excited on while you're still writing it, I imagine that also, I mean, it's also like a marriage. I love your analogies, dude, because it is like, you don't just say, hey, my wedding's tomorrow. You got to be there.
Right.
Like, no, people talk about their weddings for years sometimes.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
they invite people way in advance. There's notice, but then it also builds the excitement as you're building. So then if you are stuck and maybe that's frustrating, maybe you're like, okay, I'm going to write for 5 minutes today because I really should be writing for an hour, but I'm writing for 5 minutes and then I'm going to go for a jog or whatever. And then I'm going to go about my day and maybe I'll revisit the 5 minutes again later too, like do another 5 minutes, but it loosens it up, it lightens it up. And then when someone's like, how's your book going? Like, it's exciting. And you're like, yeah, it is exciting.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we also, to shift directions just a tiny bit, because I know we could just talk about books all day.
Sure.
So for the entrepreneurial side, what is going well for you in business right now? Because I know I've gotten to witness your business grow and it's been really cool. So what's going well now for you, June?
Let's see. I think what's going really well is that the program at this point is very much like a well-oiled machine. I've run it so many times. This particular iteration, I think since 2019, and it evolves. You know, I learn different things and put them into the course. Excuse me. I think what's going well is that I've started a mentor program within the program. So that's always been a dream. And I finally feel like I'm at that point where I've had enough people do the program who also feel really passionate about it, who are returning and they're reviewing the course and they're able to, you know, coach and mentor other people as they're writing their books, while they're doing revisions of their books or while they're working on their publishing steps. Working with one person who's reviewing, who is talking to an agent today, which is really exciting. So just seeing it grow beyond me, I think is pretty amazing, actually. And that's kind of the goal. You know, the participants run community writing rooms. I run one a week, but there are 4 other people running them every week as well. And it's just amazing.
That is, awesome, June. That's so cool.
Yeah. I think in terms of when we talk about business, like, you know, Teresa and I were in a program where they would talk a lot about giving away your project or, you know, being able to build your business enough that you could sell it and pass it to someone else and have it be like solid enough like that. And I mean, that's really what I'm working towards. So yeah, exciting.
I love it. Okay. Well, then on the flip side of that, if there was any way that, you know, if David and I had a little magic wand and we were like, okay, we can make anything better or more supportive, or like what, you know, could be improved? What's
I mean, and Teresa, you and I have talked about this a lot. The marketing part, it's hard, right? And it feels hard. Sometimes it feels really, really fun. And that's when I'm in the groove. But it feels very, very challenging to consistently get myself out there. So, you know, I think folks who are in fields like, I mean, therapists have sometimes like a 10-session limit or something like that. But sometimes you can see someone for years and years. Mm-hmm. And I'm not in that zone, right? Like I'm marketing the next program. I'm seeing people usually for 6 months at a time. And so one of the things I'm doing is I will be expanding, you know, to longer programs within the business for folks who are alumni of the first one. But in general, you know, I post on social media. I've heard this from so many other business owners, and I'm sure you hear it too. You know, I reach out to people, and, you know, this is why I might need your help, David. I the people who come into the course it's word of mouth, like almost 90% is people who have done the course, who are bringing in a friend or someone who wants to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. I mean, I think in some ways it's really wonderful. And at the same time, the reach is just, I have a digital course. I have like all the videos and the workbook, and I could pretty much just slap it on the website, which is what I'm anticipating doing during maternity leave.
Yeah.
But my hope is that it really is accessible to as many people as possible. And my skill set is not bringing traffic to my website.
Yeah. Because again, it's a completely different skill. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so with that, it's either you learn it or you find someone else who can do it for you, or some combination of the two, right? But yeah, I think traffic is definitely the number one thing everyone is having a hard time with now, especially because after the pandemic, so many new entrepreneurs jumped online, and they're all doing the stuff that they were doing before 2020 happened. And that's still a lot of what's being taught out there is post on social media 5 times a day, which we're inundated. And the algorithms are actively suppressing business content on social media. You know?
Yeah, in a lot of spaces, and it depends on what the content is. And then there's so many, like, and every social media expert will tell you something different about what you should do to have people liking and following and bring new followers in, the right followers.
Sure, totally. I've been to all those webinars.
Oh yeah, no,
it's an ever evolving issue that I think everyone is having right now. But just to really keep going and just keep expanding.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're doing all the right things.
I think it's also finding other avenues like social media. It was very interesting because we just interviewed this amazing woman named Nancy, and we were talking about social media and how like you have to have a presence as a business, but also like you got to have that presence. You got to have some substance, but like it's just more important to have some sort of presence, because people then are going to go from there to your website. If they're actually going to do something, they're usually not converting from social media alone. Like you have to do a lot more of that. So yeah, it does take something in the marketing, but driving people to your website, driving people to your tools that you have available, maybe, while you're actually birthing a little human.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think, the other piece of that is, so my commitment is that all writers are heard, and that doesn't always reach everyone I want it to reach. People of various backgrounds, people who, are just kind of in survival mode and can never fathom even trying to write a book. And sometimes it reaches those people, which is wonderful. But the other thing, I think that's possible is just partnering with more various organizations. And I'm even playing around with, which I've thought about for years, moving it from a business to a nonprofit, getting grants for people to write books who wouldn't normally write books. I don't know. There's all kinds of, I'd say, it's like marketing, but it's also accessibility.
Okay. Is that like your target market is people who wouldn't otherwise write a book, or is that just?
Yeah, yes, but I'd say that the target market is more people who wouldn't write a book because it's too emotional.
Okay.
Or just like they need like that support in terms of, writing through things that are challenging to write about. Beyond that, the target market is also business owners.
Yeah.
So I guess I have 2 target markets, and sometimes they overlap. But ultimately, I would love to see like homeless people writing their books, and see people who, in other countries who somehow maybe I can coach them even if I don't speak that language or whatever it is, right? Like that's kind of the big dream.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No, I think that's an awesome goal, because the more technology, especially that's happening in our world, the more valuable the human story becomes. And I think being able to help people get those stories out is a really noble and important goal. So I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think I just was in a conference this weekend sharing my own story, my own like mental health journey, which is also in the book. And because I want to break stigma around mental illness. And so for me, that's just one example of like, I just think we can create a more peaceful world if we know each other's stories.
Absolutely.
And if the only stories we know are repetitively, white, wealthy people, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It just reinforces the same narrative. So yeah, just looking for that expansion. So,
no, yeah. And I think that's great. So it's just the more you have that perfect message that's getting out to more people, that's going to naturally attract that. So then it's just figuring out what that message is, wrapping that into the course that you have, or at least like a shorter webinar, and then getting that in front of as many eyes as possible to just magnetically attract them to your brand. So it sounds like
that's smart. Yeah, that's smart. But because I don't often explain it the way that I am with you all. So this is actually really helpful for me to articulate it. It's always in my head, but as we know,
we're all in our heads, us entrepreneurs.
Especially with writers, like you got to get it out of you. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, in the interest of expanding the people that you don't know, knowing who you are and that they should write their book and that you are accessible to them, please tell us where they can find you and what's coming up. And we'll make sure to have all the details in the show notes too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my website is volasessions.com. I'm generally mostly on Facebook out of all the platforms, facebook.com/volasessions. I'm also on Instagram as Vola Sessions and on LinkedIn. So if you want to just, talk about your book a little bit and get some eyes on it, a little bit of feedback, you can book a call with me. It's no cost. It's calendly.com/Vola Sessions. And truly, I know we're all a little bit skittish about consultation calls or, it means I'm going to sign up or whatever it is. But I truly I love talking with people about your books. And whether you sign up for something or not, I just happy to help whatever stage you're at. So again, it's calendly.com/Vola Sessions is the best way.
Awesome. And we'll have all that in the show notes as well.
Cool. Perfect. Well, June, I just want to thank you again for being on with us. This was amazing, incredible. And so I really would encourage you to hop on if you've ever even considered, if it's been in the back of your head, like that would be really cool. And you kind of have an idea, or maybe you don't even know what you want to write about, but you want to, it's worth it to have a conversation with June. So check it out. And June, just thank you. I'm just so grateful you're here with us today.
Thank you both. It's such a gift to talk about my business, about the writers. Just really, I think it even just re-inspired me talking about it. Like, oh yeah, this is why I do what I do. So thank you both so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. And once again, Action Takers, we are here to help and be your partners and bring you other really cool partners to help you get to that place that you're trying to go. So thanks for listening to another episode, and we will see you next week. Thank you for listening. This has been the conclusion of our 2-part series.
And hey, congrats for making it here.
If you didn't happen to catch part 1, just go back to the previous episode to get the full story.
It was a really good one.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider liking, subscribing, and or reviewing us on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Also, if there's someone you know who clearly doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and would benefit from this topic, please hit that share button and send them this episode.
Let's normalize the feeling of uncertainty,
asking for help, and admitting that we don't know
what the fuck we're doing either.